Good afternoon. I think that we are online. Welcome. Nice to see you all. Welcome to this Fabulamundi Happy Hour Talk number 3. My name is Mercedes Giovinazzo, and I am honored to be in such good company this afternoon once again. Fabulamundi is providing me with the pleasure and yes, of being able to be in dialogue with professionals that have an extremely interesting experience, and from which I am not shy to say that I am learning quite a lot of things. This is Happy Hour Talk number 3. I was thinking this morning, wow, 3 out of 5. And I thought about this Spanish tradition. At least I only know about it in Spain. University students, and I have 2 children who are currently at university, celebrate the equator of their degrees. That is, halfway through their degrees, they celebrate, the fact that they're halfway. So my eldest was able to celebrate in January 2020 the equator of his 5-year degree. He was lucky enough to do it before the lockdown. Whereas my second, who's taking a 4-year degree, could not do it because it was smack in the middle of the whole lockdown here in Spain. And I was thinking, that, well, it's a tradition. So today we are celebrating the equator of the Happy Hour Talks. And thank you to all of you, Francesca Garolla, Jean Belladur, Maxi Oberer, and Elena Tornero, for being with us all and accompanying us in these 60 minutes of pleasurable conversation, I hope. I would like to start, as we usually do, and as we have been doing in the previous 2 talks, by asking each one of you for a short, very personal insight on what Fabulamundi has represented for you personally, in professional terms as well. As I have always said these past 2 sessions, it's not that I'm really interested in, the activities that have taken place, but what Fabulamundi has represented for you at a personal and professional intimate level, if you allow me the term intimate. And then, since I see that there might be a sort of fil rouge that links some of you with your or through your professional experiences, I'd like to then focus on a number of issues which relate to the theme of Fabulamundi, but can also illustrate, I think, what your professional preoccupations are about, in order to convey also to those listening to us today or whenever, what it is that you do and how you tackle the issues that you tackle in your professional life. So let me start, as I usually do, with one of you. The first one that I have on my list, and it's not anything else than the order that I was given of the order of your biographies as I received it. So yeah, nothing to say, but the first I would like Francesca Garolla. Let me just go one step backwards. Sorry, for those of you who are new to these talks, the talks are usually between 2 professionals that work from or with a theater that enter in conversation with 2 other professionals who are playwrights. Okay, so here we have Francesca Garolla and Jean Belladur, who are those working in theaters, festivals, etc., and Maxi Oberer and Elena Tornero, who are the playwrights. So Francesca Garolla, I understand that you are one of the artistic directors of Teatro I. If I'm correct, but I might be wrong, I understand that it was founded in 1995 by Renzo Martinelli and Federica Fracassi as Teatro Aperto, open theater. Yes, which then became in 2004 Teatro I. And I am very curious to understand what the E stands. So please also tell me about that. The aim of Teatro I, of this whole project that is already 25 years old, is to support the development of an independent contemporary theater scene in Milan. You're part of the network of municipal theaters, so you also have a relevant place. But I would also, this is about, I would say, your biography, where you work. But I have looked, you know, at the website Fabulamundi, and there are a number of things that you have written in that on the website. And there are two things that have struck me very much, which is the first, you say that theater translates, huh? You actually write this, theater translates. It is a metaphor, a vision of the world, if I interpret correctly what you say on the website. And then there's a second issue that struck me, which is this attitude that you have about the work that you do, what theater is about. It is about, you say, the silent relation with the spectator, that leads you or has led you to see the infinite perceptions of the world, but also the infinite possibilities that interpreting the world provides us with.
Yes.
This is about you. So please go ahead, Francesca.
Okay, I can start from E, of Teatro I.
Yes.
Teatro I is a very little theater in Milan, because we have 80 plays in the theater, but very, very interesting and focused on the contemporary drama and emerging theater. And yes, our programmation and our production is focused in particular about the contemporary drama. So our participation to Fabulamundi project is like a part of our project. So, and E for E is only a letter of the alphabet, but is the more little and fragile, I can say fragile, letter of the alphabet, and is like us, a very little place, but with a strong vocation and mission to discover and presented something that is hidden for a lot of people, okay? And yes, I think that this little biography, I don't know if is really a biography of Teatro I, but something like this, is very connected with my personal biography, like you say, because I have a double rule. I am part of the artistic direction, but I am also a playwright, and so and dramaturg of the theater. So yes, I think that what you said now on the site of Fabulamundi is really our vocation: discover and translate the reality on the stage for the public. But who is the public? The public is a generical one, no? It's not one person, but many persons, and is also a different society and culture. And so we ask ourselves how we can say and talk about the reality across different language, but not only language like in Italian, English, French, but artistic language. Artistic language by the author, Elena, Maxi, I, and so Fabulamundi, it's very important because it's the occasion for translate a text in an happening. So because I can say I can read many texts, but I can also translate in another language, yes, but in another point of view, because if I am Italian, for instance, and I read a text of Elena, and it's not the same for me what she wanted to say, okay? I hope that I was clear. But this is the sense of Fabulamundi for us, a creative sense, of course. There is also another organizing sense, and but now I want to say about the creative sense of Fabulamundi.
Okay, thank you, Francesca. We'll come back to that. Let me give the floor to Jean Balladur. I mean, I'm not sure that I am in a position to introduce you, Jean. You are an undiscussed reference in the theater scene in France. You are the co-founder with Michel Didim of La Mousson d'été, now also La Mousson d'hiver. Your idea when you set this up in a faraway place as is the Abbaye des Prémontrés in eastern northern France, well, was also a big challenge, I think. But you have managed to really create in far removed place a reference for where actually to discover and promote new playwrights. And you have made this your mission also with the intention through the festivals, let me use that word, that you organize throughout the year, open spaces where people can actually, also the audience can discover and be with the creators. And I was very lucky in my youth to visit you many years ago. It was 1990. I visited the Abbaye des Prémontrés. It's a wonderful place. So I think that you are in a luxury position, but nevertheless, again, you are one of the references of the theater scene in France. So thank you for being with us, and please, your input on Fabulamundi.
Well, you said everything. I don't know what you said now.
No, you have to say about Fabulamundi. I talked about you.
No, as you said, you know, the Mousson d'été, I think it's when we made the Mousson d'été with Michel Didim 25 years ago. This year, we celebrate the 25th years of the Mousson d'été. The idea is to have the playwright in the center of everything, you know, just to say that it's very important, you know, to promote, to disseminate, to translate playwrights from all over the world, you know. The idea was to say that playwrights are citizens of the world, you know, and they are talking about the world, you know. They are telling story, you know, and how do they tell story? What they can tell to people, you know. Maybe, you know, that's what really is the most important for us, you know. Of course, and Fabulamundi was a wonderful opportunity to make new playwrights, of course, you know, from 8 countries in Europe, 7 countries, you know, and of course France, of course. And it was very interesting, you know, to read a lot of text, you know, to make playwrights. Elena is there, you know, maybe we talk later, and we did a lot of cooperations with Elena. It was very interesting, you know, and for our public, you know, for the professional. So Fabulamundi, it's really a wide world for us, you know. It opens to European. The idea is to say that theaters is European, and well, more than that, you know, of course, because we've been working with Europe, but we've been working with China, with Japan, with South America, with North America, you know. We've been really working all over the world. La Mousson d'été is open to all the playwrights. Of course, we have a reading committee, which is made of 15 partners, you know, actors, professional, university, etc. We make twice a month. We read a lot of text, and then we make our programations, of course. So we get a lot of text from Fabulamundi, more than 400 or 500 texts. You know, we read it. Of course, we cannot read in all the language, Romania, German, and not all us can speak all the language. So we work with La Maison Antoine Vitesse, which is an international center for translations. They make some resume for us, and then we decide to translate it or not. And so that's why we discover a lot of new text, and we did it at La Mousson d'été. It was very interesting, and we hope that it is still going on. You know, we're a bit worried now for the future. You know, because we really have a strong relationship with all our partners, and we want to stick to keep going on. Of course, you know. That's very important for us, you know, because we really found very strong and deep relationships. We met very interesting playwrights, and we want to we want to still going on with them. I'm sorry for my English. I haven't practiced for quite a long time. Just coming back, but okay, I try to do my best. But that's what I want to say. Mousson d'été is really a free place. Maybe Elena will talk because I cannot be judge, and I'm boss of the part, so I don't know if I'm really I would say in French partial, impartial. I don't know how to say in English, but because there's no pressure at the Mousson d'été. It's a first tape. Actors are coming. Michel is engaging about 15 actors, very, very good actors, I think, and then it's a first reading. But there's no obligations, there's no pressure. We don't care about the press. We don't care about money. Well, we don't care about, there's not the pressure of productions. So it's really a laboratory, La Mousson d'été. And I think people came and they are still very free, to try, to exchange, and to see if it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, But I would say that those last 25 years, we did about, I don't know, maybe 700, 800 texts, and more than 200 has been produced, by professionals in theaters. Because of course, it is the first step, but the second step, it's that the text has been produced. Otherwise, maybe Elena, you can talk now and say, because Elena would say we've been doing a lot of project with Elena, workshops and reading and translation. And this year, for the first time, she's being a teacher in our summer university, because next to the Mousson d'été, we organize a summer university, which is very, very important. There's about 75 people coming from all over France, and even from some other country. Of course, they have to speak French. Well, not really, but it's better, of course. And we have 5 teachers, and Elena is one of these teachers, and she ran a workshop this year with these students who are teachers, who are students, who are professional, who are very, very concerned by contemporary text.
Thank you. So, Elena, it's about you, huh? You have been one of the playwrights of Fabulamundi that has worked with both La Mousson d'été, but also with Teatro I. You are from Barcelona. You have studied at the famous Institut del Teatre. So yeah, you are a graduate of that very well-known school. But I think that you have multiple facets, because you direct, you write, you translate. As Jean has said, you also teach, and you have been awarded many things. I will only mention 2 or 3: the Spanish Authors Society Award, the Fundación Romea Award, but also the Lope de Vega Theater Award. So you have already a good list of recognitions to your assets. But apart from all of this, there are 2 things which I think have to be highlighted before I give you the word. There's also a couple of sentences on the website, on the Fabulamundi website, that you have written, and you say that you believe in the power of stories. And that will lead us into the second part of this conversation. But you also define yourself, when you speak about you as a playwright, you say that you're a loner, which somehow, in your last, let's say, professional years, since you have also dedicated yourself very much to working in refugee camps, also through your professional activities, strikes me as, you're not a loner. You are someone who actually is socially and politically engaged.
Yeah, well, I think I said I'm a loner because I think writing has to do with loneliness. But it's like a paradox, because you write on your own, and that's, I think it's interesting when we meet with different playwrights in Fabulamundi, because we can share all these moments of loneliness, of not knowing how to go on with our writings. So it's something that you do on your own, and you need some certain loneliness to get the perspective for your writing. But then I think I'm a social person. I mean, I like to work. I think theater, if we consider writing, I think writing theater is a specific writing which connects with the collective, because then you have to finish it with a collectivity. You cannot finish the story on your own. You really need to have the actors, you need to have, you know, all the artistic team, and then you need to have the audience, of course. So it's like a paradox. It's between loneliness and then sharing. So yeah, I think maybe that answers your a little bit your question in that way. And about what Fabulamundi has meant to me, I think it has meant sharing mostly. Now, when we were just talking, because of that thing, I always say when I'm writing, I'm in my cave there. I'm going to close myself in my cave, but then you go outside and you can share with other playwrights, with other theater makers. And I remember very clearly that the day I met with Francesca Garola in Milan, when I was there was a workshop of one of my plays in Teatri, and talking about writing and about theater and about our experiences. I think that's something that's very precious. And also as already Jen said, no, in La Mousson, for me it was very interesting to be at La Mousson in different ways, because in the first time I went there was to direct a play from another playwright, a reading, and I really enjoyed that point of putting the author, the playwright, in the center, because sometimes we are not in the center. It's like we have to battle with the stage directors, and there it was like the actors and all the artistic team put themselves at the service of the play, at the service of the text. And then this year was another different perspective, which I enjoyed very much, because I had to read all the texts which were on the Mousson in order to prepare the workshop. And that was really interesting, because then you had all these different writings from all these different voices, and then I knew them before I went to the festival, so I could then see the all this work between the play and the playwriting and the staging, the reading. So yeah, I think it has been very valuable for me. I learned a lot from also the meeting with all the playwrights from different countries in La Mousson was very interesting. People from I knew people from Spain who I didn't met before. And we met in La Mousson, because maybe they work in Madrid and I work more in Barcelona, for instance. And people from Italy, from Romania, from Australia, from Germany. So I think it has been very, very rich for me. And also, I think another thing that I didn't like from La Mousson was the importance of the translators. That they always mention the translator, which I think it's an important issue when we talk about, because without the translators, the words cannot travel. I mean, we can travel, but if our texts are not translated, we cannot, because the audience cannot share it. So you cannot share it with the audience. So it's I think that's an important thing, I guess. Yeah. And also another thing that gave me, I think, is the perspective. And I think that's something that Francesca mentioned. I think that to see how what you wrote from another perspective, from another audience, from another public, that brings you. I remember very much the questions and the commentaries from the audience when in Milano after the reading of Fascination, or in Warsaw when it was there. I mean, it was really. I always think that the texts are more clever than the authors, and sometimes you've written something that you don't know. You know what you wanted to write, but some of the things of the result you don't know, and then suddenly someone from another country says, you were talking about that there. I say, oh, really? I didn't know, but then you say, yes, you're right. I was not conscious about that, but maybe that's a nice way to discover every day new things from what you wrote. It's a constant learning, I guess.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Maxi Oberer. You have studied in Vienna and in Berlin. I know literature, philosophy, theater. You are also, the recipient of multiple awards, since I like the Académie Solitude or the Academy of Arts in Berlin, but also Eurodrama for something very specific and interesting, which is legal helpers. I will come back to that. You have, as many of you are involved in Fabulamundi experience in Europe, but also across the ocean, because you have been, for instance, visiting professor at Dartmouth College, yes. And recently, if I understand correctly, you have founded with Sasha Maria Selzman, the New Institute of Dramatic Writing, the NIDS. Fabulamundi, yes. And maybe at the end, which will give me, the access to come to the second part of the talk. You have two very recent performances, Defending Europe and The Ghost Ship. So Fabulamundi and these last performances, could you expand a little bit on both, please?
Yes, my name is Maxi Obexer. It's a little strange name. No problem for this. And the second little correction, and it's so funny because it maybe immediately connects to Fabulamundi and what it means for me personally. I'm actually not an Austrian writer, but I've been born here in South Tyrol, which is a German-speaking part of Italy. So I'm an Italian, and I moved to Berlin. And I've been living there for many, many years. I did my studies there, yes. And so in terms of Fabulamundi, I could discover something extremely interesting for me, that my plays has been translated and also performed in Italy, in Calabria, in Torino. And there, something, also with my last book, la prima estate dell'Europa, so last summer of Europe. The experience I make is that with the translation of the performances of my plays in Italy, I could discover my own Italian socialization. So with the translation into Italian, a part of my life, a part of my origin could come home, and also with the spectators, I can say that they immediately understood the Italianity in these works, also because the origin, many times the origin of the plays started in Italy. And then I bring them to Germany because mostly they have been performed in Germany. So this is a extremely important personal impact, but it also says a lot about your European ways and biographies. And this is the way of Europeanize this country, this Europe. As many of us, or let's say most of us, have this many regions, and in order to be produced somewhere else, it means that parts of it can be shown again of what it is in. And second is the importance of drama, the importance of the language, the importance of this. In my eyes, one of the most important art for social and political talks, and all the dimensions. What is in this art of it's in this dramatic art is. It's an art which is really in a dialogue with the public, and it's extremely important to show the possibilities of this art and also the meaning of this art, because what Ellen also mentioned, this art has not been yet in the center anymore. It's also in danger, even maybe more in Germany, where there is a huge scene of theater, but the language, playing with the language, the importance of language, to be in the dialogue with the spectators, all these possibilities of this art are in danger. And this is also the reason why I founded this the Institute of Dramatic Art. And maybe I can also tell you a little anecdote which shows you immediately the how important it is to bring the plays to other countries, or to have this exchange of plays in Europe, because it's not just an abstract something that we are living in Europe. We are also on economic terms living in Europe. So there was a play written by Radoslav Pachuk, and he wrote about those who are taking care, all those Polish young women who are leaving the country, taking care for old women or for children in Italy. There are millions. And so when he presented this play at our summer school here, because we also have a summer school of dramatic art, and Fabulamundi was joining us once. And so he presented this play, and then we were just asking, so is it a play for Polish spectators, or is it more a play, or even more, or also a play for the Italian spectators who don't know anything about those who leave the country and take care of the Italian elder people or children, and so all these so-called badanti. You know? So it shows very clearly that the plays have to show also to the many of these countries in order to bring these very important debates together, and to show how intricate we are all in it. There is no just Polish situation. There is no just the Italian situation, not just the German situation. We are all really connected in many also economic ways, and with dramatic art we can show this, how we are intricate in many terms. And of course it's also what Elena says, it's so important that from time to time we also can meet each other, because we are not, as playwrights, we write not because we want to be alone. We want to be in a dialogue, and writing has to be, to be in a lonely situation. But we do it in order to bring important issues to this world, to make them visible. And so, it's great to meet from time to time, to have an exchange, because normally we can't. We are into theaters and we are working like crazy. And it's so important that I think also was what Jean says, it must continue, because I think we need this project for these reasons. We need this project for this art, because it's in a danger, and only big projects can show the importance of the dramatic art. And the second is Europe, and Europe by nice these countries. And so it has to be continued. So I don't know whether I answered anything of your questions.
Nobody, I mean, no, don't worry. We're in a conversation here. Nobody has to answer anything directly. You know, I'm not asking whether you like, I don't know, chocolate ice cream, yes or no. No. It's not about this. It's about hearing about yourselves, which I find is the relevant and interesting part. One might not like it, might one not be prone to it, because, you know, writing is a solitary activity, but socializing your expertise, your knowledge, your experience is absolutely relevant, because it is part of what is the intangible spin-offs of projects such as this. We have heard, and you have also testified to this, the importance of being in dialogue, of cooperating, and I would take, as a first minor conclusion of this initial round, this idea that Fabulamundi has contributed in an important way to put theater, playwriting, etc., back on the stage in a constructive and structured way as regards cultural policies. Hopefully, be it at national level, but also from, hopefully again, a European perspective. So that is an enormous, I would say, achievement, because as we all know, culture is the poor brother of the public policies everywhere. And whenever there is an opportunity such as this one, it is to be applauded indeed. But sometimes what we're not able to do is actually show what we have done beyond the list of activities, etc. So again, this sort of meetings, and there are a number of meetings going on these days within the Fabulamundi family, are extremely relevant because they are a legacy to the project through your voices. So thank you for that. We bring culture, hopefully, or we contribute to putting culture at the center of the stage as regards public policies, hopefully, and that is part of our responsibility. The second point from which I would like to take this conversation in this last half hour that we have ahead of us relates to the subtitle of Fabulamundi. It's Playwriting Europe Beyond Borders. And I would like to focus on this idea beyond borders. Borders, you have all mentioned the importance of exchange, dialogue, translation, interpretation. So this is about breaking borders and opening up the space for, let's say, socialization, exchange, etc. But it is a difficult itinerary because, as you have all also shown, we all have our complex identities. We have to relate yes or no, sometimes with a higher degree or lesser degree of success to our complex identities. We have to relate to a territory. At the end of the day, we are a species, the human species, but we're animals, so we need this link to the territory. But there is also the political aspect, and I think that both Elena and Maxi have tackled this, the issue of borders today in Europe. We want an open Europe, but at the same time, we're living in a paradox of a closed Europe, and you have tackled this through your projects and activities. But I also understand that from, for instance, in Milano, Teatro I works also with a very strong social base, and you have this open attitude to the audience, which is, of course, a mixed audience today. So to put it bluntly, what I would like is to ask you if you can react from your professional and, again, personal perspective on this term, borders, and what it has meant for you and what it means for you at this current moment in your professional life. Of course, also on the basis of your experience within Fabulamundi, but not necessarily. Can we talk a little bit about this? I know that it's vast, it's complex. I'm not expecting, again, a yes or a no, but just to spur a little bit the conversation. Who would like to start, or shall I put? Come on. Okay, nobody. Elena, then I'll pick you. I'll pick you because you have worked on these issues. You have also, sorry. You have also written a story for Fabulamundi on this. and you're very involved here in Barcelona with in work with displaced people, which relates to this issue of borders and of liquidity that we're living in today.
Yeah, I remember when I saw the Beyond Borders, the first thing I said is, why is there an interrogation at the end? I mean, does it mean that we are not sure about the borders? Does it mean that we're not sure about having them or not having them? You know, for me, it was interesting, the interrogation at the end. And I don't know, I was born in a border. I mean, I live in Barcelona, but I was born just at the last town before the French border, in a train station, which is a very, very small village, known because Walter Benjamin died there, but otherwise nobody would know where Portbou is. And I remember I had very clear this absurdity of the border being an artificial construction. I remember when I was a child, we used to walk around there and you say that, now I'm in France, now I'm in Spain. So it was like, I couldn't, for me, as a child, was difficult to understand that one step there, you were in another country. And, you know, so it's really something that makes it makes me feel that it's something a little bit absurd somehow. And in some way, I think the borders are something which comes from our minds. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
And that's something that working with in Greece, in northern Greece, with the people were asking for a refugee, because we always put this name of refugees, and in fact, these people who are seeking for a refuge, but they don't have it because they're in a camp, so which is not a safe place. And I realized that we also had many borders in our minds. We have our prejudices. We have our, you know, our the things that we don't know about some other cultures. That's why meeting people from other cultures is important, because then you begin to see how all the things you begin to differentiate the things that you have been they told you about that, and the things that are really there. And it's a difficult question. I don't have the answer for that. But I think it's an issue that we have to think in Europe about, because we talk a lot about the project of being together Europe, and for me the question is Europe a project of, you know, sharing, or is a project of let's keep strong but we don't let in the other one? So for me it's an issue that needs further debate in order that, because we are in the same planet, all of us, I know, and the border is, I mean, the border is something that has been constructed in the past, but then we have to, I think the borders are more economical than political somehow, and it's all about economics, and that affects everything. Every people is affected by the place where they born. That, I mean, their economic situation affects everything. They birth, their life, and their death, and it's something affects also the work of everyone. I mean, it's not the same if you are a playwright from a poorer country or from a country who has more budget for culture. So, well, I'm talking a lot, but
let me
thing.
give the floor to Jean, whom I saw that was nodding as you were speaking. Remind you that we have 15 minutes left, so
no,
you can give it a go. Fine, we have time.
Does it work? You hear me? No,
Yes.
I just was thinking about what you said. You know, it's really a matter of value. You know, and it's in our mind. You know, I think what's interesting for me with Fabulamundi and the idea of borders. You know, borders in your mind, and I think people from several countries in Europe and even over the world share the same values. You know, what do we want? In fact, what does people want? You know, they want to live in peace. You know. they want to have enough to eat, you know, they want to be free, they want to have enough air to breathe, and they hope they will in 10 years from now, you know. And I would say playwrights talk about that, you know, talk about values, you know. I would say that, for instance, when Polish playwrights speak about the woman in their country, well, of course, it's not the same in France. It's not the same. Maybe we're a little bit more free. Maybe I don't know. But we are aware about that, you know. We are aware. We feel solidaire. We are solidaire about that, you know. Of course. But the problem about borders, it's a problem of politics, you know, because some of politics, you know, wants to rise nationalism. See what's happening in Romania at the moment, you know. So that's the danger. And playwrights won't save the world, you know, but they help us to think, to ask some questions, you know. Well, they don't give any answer, but maybe they move our mind, you know. And that's what, for me, what very interesting in Fabula, you know, to see what's in the mind of a Polish playwrights, of a German playwrights, of a Austria playwrights, of a Catalan playwrights, you know. We had the opportunity with Elena to speak about the situation in Catalonia, you know, and I felt very, well, I was shocked, you know, but what she told me, you know, but I felt so, well, you know, there's no difference between, I would say, Elena and I, you know. I would mean that if I would live in Catalonia, I would be as aware as she is. I guess, you know. So when she come in Mousson d'été, in Abbaye, she tell her that, you know. She tells story, you know. I don't know if it talks directly about that, but she talk about what's in her mind, you know. And she tried to break the borders, you know. That's what they do. You know, the playwrights, they poof, you know, the borders, you know.
Thank you, Jean. That was, yeah, very, very helpful and interesting. Maxi, I also saw you raise your hand. I'm not forgetting about you, Francisca, but Maxi.
Yes, I would love to, follow it up with what you are saying, talking about some terms, like what are borders and what are border countries. And as I also, like Helena mentioned, I also grew up on different borders of that country. So we are, it's a typical borderland, and it was part of Austria. It was now it is part of Italy for 100 years, but also could have been part of Switzerland. And what I want to say is the so-called cultural identity, because it can never be clear. It's never been, are you Italian, or are you Austrian, or a German, or what are you? So, but only those who cannot give a clear answer are the only one who got asked. Because only those who live on these border countries got always asked what kind of cultural identity they have. And I think this experience with this so-called cultural identity, is something that has to be critical discussed, because there is to make the experience with not belonging to only one is something that always had that negative impact. So you are not a real Italian, you are not a really this, you are not a really that, you are kind of nothing. But I would say even more this kind of bastardism is, on the other hand, the base of a European identity, if we talk about identities, or maybe we even leave this away. And there are so many contradictions in talking about this little term. Also talking about minority, we also have to give a critical reflection on what's a minority and what's a majority. And I think writing plays and texts about this and putting it on stage and have the debate about this is also important to have good reflections about what is this Europe, what are borders, because there are borders, and they also make realities, a huge reality, because you really think, okay, here with one leg I'm in Austria, with one other leg I'm in Italy. When you cross these mountains, but at the same time it's just mountains. And then they put you in a category of you are this cultural identified, I don't know, Aboriginal class. But first there was the election and not the cultural identity. So it's a political decision, and then they put you in a cage of a minority. And so there are many things to have a very sharp critical analysis of the terms we are all kind of believing or talking with these vocabularies we have to put in a very critical way. So just to mention one thing.
Thank you. And Francesca, just let me remind about one of your latest things that you have written, in particular, I understand recently. In Italian, it's esercizi in libertà. Yes. I'm not sure that I would be a good translator for this, but it's I would say it's exercises in free exercise in freedom. Yeah, so relating to this idea of borders and freedom, please.
Yes. At the beginning of the project, I asked myself which border, because and in this year I changed my idea many times, because I think that we think that there are many borders, and there are many borders, but there are also no one border, like in this year. There is a sick, and the sick is the globalization, is all the world. There are no borders now, no? And it's very strange, this kind of way of thinking, because in a way we are we have a particular identity, yes, of course, but now the reality arrive in our home through every kind of media, okay? And so there are no borders. The borders are in our mind, okay? And so I try with the exercise of freedom when we were in lockdown in Italy, but also in other country, of course. I try to exercise my mind to find something of freedom in a little space, thinking that my idea of freedom it's not limited by it's limited only by the social system, the cultural system, the political system, the media system, but it's not limited by myself. It cannot be limited. It cannot be limited. Sorry, I write better. And we limited ourselves. So the exercise of freedom, it's this. And I think that the Fabulamundi is a project that creates a collective identity, not only the identity of one author, one playwright, one country, but a collective identity. There are many voices, but inside Fabulamundi project, there is also an unique voice. I hope that is clear. This
very clear, very visual, very visual.
Okay. And so yes, there are borders, but maybe we can try to go across this border.
We will have to round up. but I still have some minutes, so 5. It's not enough to give you the floor to each one of you to expand, but it's still some time. So I will ask you for a quick round. Think about one word that you would like to counterpose to the word borders. Just one. Share it with us, please. Bear with me. Play the game.
Well, closer.
No?
Closer.
Sorry?
Closer. Closer.
Closer in the sense of
Closer
proximity?
in sense of proximity, in sense to
Okay.
well, to get next to each other, you know, to get, you see?
Yeah, thank you.
Elena.
Max, Maxi, Elena,
Max.
Francesca.
It's very difficult.
Oh, well, whatever comes off.
I would say words.
Closer word.
Words in plural, yeah.
Words, world, sorry.
World.
Is it words or world?
Words, palabras.
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 Okay, so words. Sorry,
Yeah,
thank you.
world.
Thank you, Elena.
Yes, yes.
So close words.
I can say all.
Okay.
Remove them.
Okay. Thank you. It's been wonderful. I've enjoyed it enormously. I hope you too. And you know, this idea of being close, of being open, of sharing, of values, of the idea that borders are also in our mind. That we have to remove these borders. That's I think a nice way to finish these this conversation. One last thing that you have put on the table, it was Jean. Yes, theater at the center, we have said, but also the responsibility and the capacity to ask the right questions, to make people think a little bit of who they are, what they want to do in life, hopefully in, you know, a better world sometime. Elena, I grew up in Barcelona many years ago, and one of my memories of my childhood is exactly what you were saying. I had to travel often to Switzerland to visit my uncle, and we traveled by train. And not many people know that at that time, I'm talking about 70s, and still in many places in Spain today, the width of the tracks, of the train tracks, is narrower than in the rest of Europe. So the train would arrive at Portbou, it would stall. You either had to change the train, you had to get off and get on another train to move forward. So that was already, you know, wow, this is the border, I have to get off, walk and take another train because the tracks are different. There was only one train, the Talgo, that would stop, would switch the width of the wheels and could continue. But for the rest, you had to take your suitcase, walk off the train, and mount on another train. And that was already a mental journey beyond the border. So you know.
Yeah. Then you saw my first house. I live in the train station. My dad worked there in the railway. So, yeah.
That was a nice image. I remember that from my childhood. It's been, again, a great pleasure. Thank you, Maxi. Thank you, Francesca, Elena, and Jean. I hope to meet you someday, somewhere in person.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you. I hope so
Bye.
too.
Take care.
See you all
Bye.
again. I hope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.